Alex Carter was not the kind of man who believed in destiny. He was a simple young man living in a small apartment, working a normal office job every evening. After finishing his dull work, he sat in front of his computer, scrolling through endless websites, searching for some kind of distraction from his ordinary life. Sometimes he played games, sometimes he watched videos, but most of the time he felt bored, empty, and invisible to the world. One late night, while drinking cold coffee and staring at his flickering screen, he saw a strange ad. Looking for love. Post your dating request now. Alex laughed, shaking his head. He had no serious interest in love or relationships, not after the heartbreak he had suffered years ago, but he felt restless, like his life needed something crazy, something unexpected. So, with a smirk, he decided to make a joke, not a normal dating ad, not a serious one, but something wild, something impossible. He began to type. His fingers moved quickly across the keyboard as he wrote, "Looking for someone strong enough to conquer galaxies but kind enough to hold my hand. Must be able to protect planets, win wars, and still laugh at my bad jokes." Alex leaned back in his chair and chuckled. It was ridiculous, it was absurd. It was the kind of nonsense that no real person would ever take seriously. Satisfied with his silly masterpiece, he pressed the post button and whispered, "Let's see if anyone's crazy enough to answer this." Hours passed and Alex forgot about it. He went to bed, thinking the post would disappear into the endless sea of internet jokes. But the universe had other plans. The next morning, his phone buzzed violently on the nightstand. Half asleep, Alex grabbed it and saw dozens of notifications. His heart jumped over 100 replies to his ad. At first, he thought they were just normal internet trolls, laughing at his post. But when he opened the messages, he froze. One message stood out, written in glowing letters that did not belong to any language he knew. The symbols shifted like they were alive, burning into his vision. Slowly, the words rearranged themselves into English, and the message read, "I accept your challenge. Human." Alex blinked, rubbed his eyes, and stared again. The message didn't vanish. Confused, he laughed nervously. "Okay, nice prank. Which one of my friends did this?" But then came another message. This one longer. It spoke of honor, of ancient traditions, of vows made by warriors who never backed down. It declared that his request had reached beyond the stars, and that his chosen partner was preparing to meet him. The final line sent a shiver down his spine. "I will arrive soon. Prepare yourself." Alex's laughter died in his throat. Something about the words felt real, too real. He checked the sender's profile, but there was no account, no email, nothing that existed on Earth. The glowing symbols appeared again, flashing across his phone like pulses of light, and then disappeared, leaving his screen blank the whole day. Alex tried to push the thought away. He told himself it was just a strange glitch, some hacker with too much free time, but as night fell, the sky itself gave him an answer. From his balcony, Alex looked up at the stars. He had always loved the night sky, endless and quiet, but tonight was different. One of the stars was moving. No, it wasn't a star, it was too bright, too large. It grew bigger and bigger until it became clear. A massive object shaped like a blade of light was descending through the atmosphere. Alarms rang across the city. People pointed at the sky. News reports screamed about an unidentified object entering Earth's orbit. Governments panicked, military radars lit up, but the object didn't attack, didn't destroy anything. It only hovered, silent and magnificent. Like a silver fortress above the clouds, Alex's phone buzzed again. He almost dropped it when he read the new message. "I am here. Do not hide." His heart pounded in his chest. His hands shook as the sky above his city split open with light. Beams of golden energy shot downward, scanning the streets, searching, and then, as if guided by some unseen force, one of those beams landed directly on Alex's balcony. The entire building shook, windows rattled, and the neighbors screamed. Alex covered his eyes as the golden light surrounded him, pulling at his very soul, and within the blinding glow, he heard a voice, soft but commanding, like thunder wrapped in silk. "You called me, human. Now prove your worth." Alex's joke was no longer a joke. It was the beginning of something far greater than he could ever imagine. The night sky was no longer silent. It was watching him, and the galaxy had just answered his call. The golden light faded slowly, leaving Alex trembling on his balcony. His legs were weak, his breath uneven, and his mind still could not accept what had just happened. One moment he had been a man who posted a joke online. And now he was standing inside a beam of light that came from the stars. His heart pounded in his chest, echoing like war drums. The air cracked with a strange sound, low and heavy, as if the sky itself was tearing apart. When Alex lifted his eyes, he saw the massive shape of the ship above. It was not like anything human eyes had ever seen. Silver armor, covered in glowing runes, stretched across a vessel that looked more like a sword than a ship. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Every window in the city reflected its blinding glow, and every soul on Earth felt its shadow. The ship's light narrowed. Focusing completely on him, Alex tried to step back, but the golden energy held him in place. Then with a sudden pull, the beam dragged him upward. His body rising into the sky, the city below became smaller. The world around him blurred, and the next second he stood on a floor made of black glass and silver steel. He gasped. The air here was heavy, filled with a strange energy that pressed against his skin. And then he saw them. Rows of armored warriors standing in silence, each of them towering over him, their eyes glowing with alien fire. They held spears made of crystal and metal, their movements perfect, disciplined, almost like statues waiting for command. Alex's voice broke. Where am I? Before anyone could answer, the soldiers parted in perfect unison. A single figure walked forward, her steps echoing like thunder. She was tall, taller than any human, dressed in armor that shimmered with silver and crimson light. Her hair fell like molten gold. Her eyes burned with the fire of twin suns. Her presence was overwhelming, beautiful yet terrifying. Noble yet dangerous, every soldier bowed as she approached. And Alex realized exactly who she was, the Galactic War Goddess. She stopped only a few feet away from him, her gaze sharp enough to pierce his soul. For a long moment she said nothing, only studied him, as if she was trying to decide whether he was real or just a fragile illusion. Alex swallowed hard, his voice shaking. Listen, I didn't mean it. It was a joke. Just a joke. The goddess tilted her head slightly, her lips curling into something between a smile and a challenge. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was deep and melodic, filled with command. A joke? You called me across the stars, awakened an ancient vow, and you say it was a joke? Her words shook the chamber, vibrating through his chest. Alex raised his hands nervously. I'm just a man. Nobody important. You've made a mistake. But she stepped closer, her armor glowing brighter, and whispered, I do not make mistakes, human. You asked for someone who could conquer galaxies and hold your hand. I have come to see if you are worthy of me. The soldiers slammed their spears against the ground in unison, the sound echoing like thunder. Alex's knees almost gave way, but he forced himself to stay upright. Part of him wanted to run, to scream, to deny everything. But another part, deep inside, felt something strange. A pull, as if destiny itself had chosen him. The goddess continued, her eyes never leaving him. My name is Serenia Valra, High Warlord of the Crimson Stars. To summon me is to bind yourself to the trials of the ancients. If you fail, your world will burn. If you succeed, your world will rise. The words hit him like lightning. Alex's mind spun. My world? Did she mean Earth? Was the entire planet now caught in this? Before he could ask, the ship shook violently, alarms flashing in crimson light. One of the soldiers rushed forward, kneeling before Serenia, speaking in a language Alex could not understand. But Serenia's eyes narrowed. Her expression fierce, she turned back to Alex, her voice sharp and commanding. The enemy has heard of you already. They come to test me, to test you. Prove yourself now, or you and your planet will be destroyed. Alex's heart stopped. Enemy? How could anyone know about him? He was nothing, nobody, just a man who posted a silly ad. And yet, as the ship trembled again, he saw flashes through the wide glass window. Dozens of alien ships were appearing in orbit, their weapons glowing, their presence heavy with the promise of war. The soldiers roared in unison. Preparing for battle, Serenia drew her sword, a weapon of burning light that looked like it could slice through a star itself. She pointed it toward Alex, her eyes blazing. Stand with me, human. Show them why you dared to call a goddess. Alex's breath caught, his fear mixing with something he could not explain. An excitement, a spark, a destiny bigger than anything he had ever known. The city he left behind was already forgotten. Now he stood on the edge of a galactic battlefield, chosen by a war goddess, marked by fate, and the joke that had begun in the quiet of his lonely room had turned into the spark that could set the galaxy on fire. The great ship roared through the darkness of space, shaking as enemy vessels surrounded them. Alex stood frozen near the window, staring at fleets of alien warships glowing like angry stars. His heart raced, his mind screamed for escape. But there was no way back to Earth, no way back to the life he once knew. Beside him, Serenia Valra, the Galactic War Goddess, raised her burning sword and gave orders in her commanding voice. Her soldiers moved with perfect unity, preparing weapons, shields, and defenses yet before the first strike. She turned to Alex, her golden eyes sharp. "You cannot fight them yet, human," she said, her voice like thunder in the silence. "But if you are to remain by my side, you must prove yourself in the trials. Otherwise, I will end this bond before the galaxy ends you." Alex's stomach dropped. Trials? He barely survived high school sports. How could he face trials of alien warriors? But before he could argue, the ship shifted, pulling him into a glowing chamber. The floor beneath him transformed into stone, the walls into ancient pillars etched with runes of fire. He realized he was no longer standing on the ship but inside a place beyond time, an arena created for one purpose: testing the worth of champions. The first trial began instantly. A beast made of shadows and teeth leapt from the darkness, its claws stretching longer than Alex's arms. Its growl shaking the air. Alex stumbled back, his heart thundering. No weapons in his hands, only fear. The soldiers watching from the outside laughed, their voices cruel. "This fragile one will die in seconds," one muttered. But Alex, panicked and desperate, grabbed a broken shard of stone from the ground and raised it. The beast lunged, but Alex dove sideways, rolling clumsily. He noticed the creature's eyes glowed red, bright, sensitive, searching, and in that moment, his human mind sparked with an idea. He smashed the shard against a glowing crystal on the floor, sending shards of light into the beast's eyes. It screamed, blinded, crashing into the walls of the arena until it dissolved into smoke. The soldiers outside went silent. Serenia raised one eyebrow. Impressed despite herself, Alex panted, holding the broken shard and shaking hands. "I'm not strong, but I'm not stupid either." The chamber shifted again, moving him into the second trial. This time no beast appeared. Instead, Alex stood before a giant puzzle, massive gears, shifting platforms, and rivers of molten fire. A voice echoed through the chamber. "Wisdom is strength. Fail and you will burn." Alex swallowed hard. The platforms moved in patterns too fast for the eye to follow. But instead of rushing, he closed his eyes, listened to the rhythm, counted the beats, his office job, his boring life. All the years of routine and patterns. Suddenly, they gave him an advantage. Step by step, he moved with the rhythm, dodging fire, leaping over gears, until he reached the end. When he emerged, the soldiers no longer laughed. Some even whispered, shocked. This human had passed 2 trials, something even trained warriors often failed. But the third trial was the most dangerous of all. The chamber opened into a vast field, where a group of alien warriors waited, each armed with spears and blades. They were stronger, faster, and filled with hatred for him. The trial was simple: survive. Alex's chest tightened. He had no weapon, no armor, only his quick thinking. The first warrior charged, his spear aimed at Alex's heart. At the last second, Alex dropped flat to the ground. The spear slamming into stone, he grabbed the shaft and pulled with all his strength, twisting until the warrior stumbled, using the spear against him. Alex forced the alien off balance and into the path of another. They collided, falling together. The crowd of soldiers gasped. Serenia's eyes widened slightly. This human wasn't winning by strength, but by turning enemies against themselves. The battle raged, Alex dodging, ducking, and using his small size as an advantage. When a blade nearly struck him, he grabbed sand from the ground and threw it into the warrior's eyes. When another tried to crush him, Alex rolled beneath and kicked the back of his knee, sending him crashing down. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't noble, but it was survival. And with every desperate move, the alien crowd grew silent, realizing that this fragile human was more dangerous than he looked. Finally, the last warrior fell, groaning in pain. Alex stood over them, his body shaking, sweat pouring down his face. His chest burned, his arms trembled, but he was still alive. He looked up at Serenia, gasping, "Is that enough?" For the first time, the war goddess smiled. Not mockery, not cruelty, but true admiration. She stepped forward, her armor glowing, and said, "You are not strong like my warriors. You are not trained like my champions, but you have something more dangerous than both. You adapt." The soldiers bowed their heads, no longer mocking him. Alex Carter, an ordinary man from Earth, had survived the ancient trials of the galaxy, but even as relief washed over him, the chamber shook again. Louder, harsher. Outside the ship, the enemy fleet prepared to strike, their weapons glowing brighter than suns. Serenya's smile faded, replaced with iron resolve. You have passed, human. But now comes the true trial. The galaxy does not wait. The enemy is here. Alex turned, his breath catching as he saw dozens of enemy ships locking their weapons onto Serenya's flagship. The trials had tested his courage, but the real war was only beginning. And Alex knew deep inside, the joke that started everything was about to decide the fate of Earth itself. The trial chamber faded away, and Alex found himself standing once again on the great black glass floor of Serenya's warship. The ship was shaking, alarms blaring, and outside the giant windows, the void of space burned with the glow of enemy ships. Dozens of vessels formed a circle, their weapons glowing brighter with every passing second. Alex's breath caught in his throat. He had survived beasts, puzzles, and warriors, but this was something else entirely. This was not a test in a chamber, this was war, and war had no rules. Serenya Valra stood tall at the center of the command deck, her golden eyes fixed on the enemy fleet. Her voice rang out sharp and cold. So, the jackals dare to challenge me here. Let them come. But then, a vast screen flickered to life in front of them. On it appeared the face of a rival warlord, a monstrous figure with gray skin, jagged horns and eyes like burning coal. His laughter echoed like thunder. Serenya Valra, the undefeated goddess of war. And yet you disgrace yourself. You bond with a fragile animal from a forgotten planet? A human? His mocking words made the soldiers growl, slamming their weapons against the floor. Serenya did not flinch, her voice calm and deadly. He has passed the trials. He is chosen. Mock him, and you mock the vow of the ancients. But the warlord only sneered, turning his burning eyes toward Alex. This is your champion? A trembling creature of flesh and weakness? Then let him watch as I burn his world first, before I take your crown. At his command, part of the enemy fleet shifted, aiming their weapons toward Earth. Alex's blood ran cold. He saw the blue sphere of his planet on the tactical screen, so small, so fragile compared to the giants surrounding it. Millions of innocent lives were now caught in this challenge. His joke had become a knife held against his entire world. He stumbled forward, his voice breaking. Wait, please don't target Earth. This fight is with me. The warlord's laughter grew louder. With you? A joke made flesh. Prove you are more than dust under my boots. The enemy ships powered their weapons, their glow so bright it painted the deck in red light. Serenya raised her sword, flames dancing along its edge. Her soldiers prepared to launch, but Alex felt his chest tighten, his mind screaming that this was madness. They couldn't win in open battle, not against numbers like this. And then something sparked inside him. He remembered the puzzle trial, the rhythm, the patterns, the timing. His human mind had always seen what others ignored. And now, staring at the tactical display, he noticed something the others didn't. The enemy fleet moved like a pack, but not perfectly. Their ships relied on one central flagship, the warlord's vessel. Every movement of the smaller ships lagged by half a second, as if they were waiting for orders. It was a weakness, a rhythm, just like the puzzle's gears. Alex's voice shook but grew stronger. Don't fight them head on. Target the flagship. Everything else is slower. If you break their leader, the pack falls apart. The soldiers stared at him in disbelief. Some even hissed in anger. How could a human give orders to them? But Serenya's golden eyes locked on him. Sharp and thoughtful, she raised her hand, silencing the chamber. Explain. Human. Alex swallowed, pointing to the glowing display. Look, they're too perfect. The smaller ships don't act until the flagship does. They're not independent, they're chained. Break the chain and the rest can't keep up. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then Serenya's lips curved into a dangerous smile. You think like prey. But in this galaxy, prey often survives longer than predators. Very well, we try it your way. She gave the command, and the warship surged forward. Engines blazing like suns, her soldiers roared in approval. Though many still doubted, the flagship's weapons fired, beams of deadly light cutting through the void. But Serenya's vessel twisted, dodging with impossible grace. Guided by her warrior's skill and Alex's desperate insight, then came the strike. Serenya raised her sword, and the ship's cannons mirrored her, releasing a beam of energy so bright it split the darkness. The blast tore into the enemy flagship, shattering its shields, ripping open its armor. The warlord's mocking face flickered with shock, then rage as his ship reeled backward, flames consuming its hull. The enemy fleet faltered, their perfect formation collapsing. Without orders, their movements broke apart. Ships colliding, weapons firing too late. Serenya's warriors struck like wolves among sheep. Tearing through the scattered enemy with savage precision, Alex gripped the railing, hardly able to breathe. He had seen it, he had called it, and it worked. For the first time, he felt not like a helpless human, but like someone who mattered, someone who could change the course of battles. But the warlord was not defeated yet. His burning face reappeared on the shattered screen, his voice filled with fury. "Human, you dare meddle in our war? I will tear your world apart with my own hands." His flagship, though damaged, unleashed a desperate surge of power. Aiming directly at Serenya's vessel, the goddess stepped forward. Her sword blazing brighter, she turned to Alex, her voice steady but fierce. "You wanted a partner strong enough to conquer galaxies. Now stand with me or fall with me. This is the true trial." The ship shook as enemy fire slammed into them, alarms screaming, lights flickering. Alex's fear mixed with something else. Courage, determination, and the heavy weight of destiny. He clenched his fists, looking Serenya in the eye. "Then let's end this together." And as the war goddess raised her sword, the battlefield of stars prepared for a clash that could decide the fate of Earth itself. The warship trembled like a living beast struck by fire. Red alarms screamed across the command deck. Sparks rained from shattered panels, and the stars outside burned with the fury of war. Alex gripped the railing, his heart hammering in his chest, as the enemy flagship loomed larger and larger, its weapons glowing like the mouths of angry suns. Serenya Valra stood in the center of the storm, her golden armor glowing brighter with every strike. Her burning sword was raised, her voice steady, commanding her warriors to hold the line. But even she knew, the enemy warlord had chosen to focus everything on this battle. If they fell, Earth would burn, and her honor would be destroyed. The enemy warlord's image flickered on the massive screen once more, his jagged horns glowing red, his eyes like burning coal. "Human," he spat. "You dare lead a goddess? You dare defy me? I will crush you, and then I will take your world as ashes." Alex felt fear coil in his stomach. He wanted to run, to hide, to deny all of this. But when he looked at the tactical map, when he saw Earth, so small, so fragile, surrounded by fire, something inside him hardened. He stepped forward, his voice shaking but clear. "You want me? Then fight me. Not Earth, not the innocent. Fight me here now." The warlord roared with laughter, a sound like thunder. "You? You are nothing but prey. Very well, I will kill you first." His ship surged forward, firing blasts of crimson energy, shaking Serenya's warship to its core. Warriors stumbled, alarms screamed, but Alex's mind raced. He remembered the trials, the beast, the puzzle, the warriors. Each time he had survived not by strength, but by using what others ignored. He studied the enemy flagship, its weapons glowing in patterns, and then he saw it. Timing, rhythm, the same flaws before. Each blast came in intervals, a half-second pause between charges. That pause was the only chance they had. He shouted, his voice breaking. "Serenya! Wait for the pause, strike in the gap." The goddess turned, her eyes flashing with fire. Without hesitation, she gave the order. Her ship dodged the first blast, twisted in the void, and fired back exactly in the half-second silence. The beam of light struck true, tearing through the enemy's shields. The battlefield erupted with fire and chaos. The warlord snarled, his image flickering. "Clever animal. But cleverness will not save you." His flagship surged again, this time preparing a weapon larger than any before. A spear of energy formed at its core, powerful enough to tear Serenya's vessel in half. The soldiers gasped, fear in their glowing eyes. Even Serenya's expression darkened. This was a weapon beyond her defenses. But Alex did not falter. He stared at the tactical map, breathing hard, searching. And then he saw it. The enemy flagship was pulling so much power into its weapon that its engines were slowing. For a brief window, it was almost immobile. "Serenya!" he shouted, his voice filled with desperation and fire. "They can't move while charging. If we hit them now, everything all at once, we can end this." The soldiers hesitated. To rush a charging weapon was suicide. But Serenya's eyes burned with fierce resolve. She turned to her warriors. her voice sharp as steel. "You heard the human. All power forward now." The warship roared, engines screaming. Every cannon blazing with light, they surged through the void. Diving directly at the enemy flagship, the charging weapon released its energy, a spear of crimson fire slicing past them by inches, burning the edges of the ship, but it missed. And Serenya's vessel struck with full fury, beams of light, torpedoes of energy, and the blazing edge of Serenya's sword tore into the enemy flagship. The great vessel cracked, fire exploding from its hull, its shield shattering like glass. The warlord's image appeared once more, his face twisted in rage. "No! I will not be defeated by a human, by a joke." Serenia stepped forward, raising her blazing sword. But Alex interrupted, his voice calm, steady. "You mocked me because I was small, weak, unimportant. But that's what makes humanity dangerous. We survive when we shouldn't. We adapt when others break. That's why we win." As if his words gave the final spark, Serenia thrust her sword forward, and the ship's weapons unleashed one final blast. The enemy flagship exploded, tearing apart in a storm of fire and metal, its fragments scattering into the darkness of space. Silence followed, broken only by the cheers of Serenya's warriors. They slammed their weapons to the ground, their voices rising in one united roar. "Victory!" Alex collapsed against the railing, his chest heaving, his body trembling with exhaustion. But inside, for the first time in his life, he felt powerful, not because he had fought with strength, but because he had changed the course of a war with his mind. Serenia approached him, her armor glowing in the aftermath of battle. She looked down at him, and for the first time, her fierce gaze softened. "You are no joke, human. You are proof. Proof that even the smallest spark can light the galaxy on fire." Her hand reached out. Strong yet gentle, Alex hesitated, then placed his trembling hand in hers. The war goddess smiled, a smile not of mockery, but of respect, even admiration. "You called me Alex Carter. Now the galaxy will know your name." The soldiers roared again, chanting his name, and for one brief moment, the galaxy bowed to an ordinary man from Earth. Alex looked at the stars beyond the shattered battlefield, the same stars he used to watch from his tiny balcony. He whispered to himself, almost laughing at the absurdity. "All I did was post a dating ad, and now I belong to the galaxy."